river flowed again, but its voice had changed. It was quieter now, cautious, as if the land itself was learning how to trust again after a long and bitter betrayal. The water slid over newly sealed stone, gently carrying away the last grains of ash. The broken valley no longer felt broken, but it felt awake, aware. Simba stood at the river's edge, watching the current bend around his paws. He could feel a warmth coming from beneath the surface, a faint hum from the stone, a reminder of what had been contained, not destroyed. Kiara joined him, her reflection rippling in the water beside his. "It's sealed," she said softly. "But it's not gone." Simba nodded, his gaze fixed on the flow. Some things aren't meant to disappear. They're meant to be understood. Behind them, the prides began to regroup, but there was no celebration, no roars of victory. The feeling that settled over them was heavier than triumph. It was the weight of responsibility. Kivali sat apart from the others, his eyes locked on the scorched symbols carved into the canyon walls. Now that the destructive fire no longer raged within him, he looked different. Younger, smaller, more real. Amani approached him carefully, his steps measured. "The broken valley won't follow you anymore," he said, his voice even. "But it doesn't have to hate you." Kivali didn't look up. "I don't expect forgiveness." "Good," Amani replied, a surprising note of approval in his tone. "Then you might just earn trust." Kivali let out a long, slow breath, the first one that didn't seem to carry the weight of a storm. Nearby, Kion sat with Rafiki, his chest still rising and falling unevenly. The roar felt different now. It was no longer a wild force waiting to burst free, but something deeper, quieter, like a steady current flowing just beneath his breath. "It listened," Kion said, a sense of wonder in his voice. "For the first time. It listened back to me." Rafiki smiled, his old eyes crinkling. He tapped the ground gently with his staff. "Power that listens does not shatter the world," he said wisely. "It carries it." Just then, a low rumble passed through the canyon. It wasn't violent or threatening, but it was a clear warning. Every head turned. Too. The Watchers of Stone stiffened, their ears flicking toward the high cliffs. Tariq's gaze darkened as he looked far beyond the valley, toward lands unseen by the lions of the Pride Lands. The deep echo was not the only thing that stirred, he said, his voice grave. When ancient forces shift, others take notice. Simba felt it then, a subtle pressure, not from beneath the ground, but from somewhere, far, far beyond it. It felt like eyes opening in a distant darkness, turning their gaze toward this small, healing valley. "How far does this go?" Kiara asked quietly, her voice barely a whisper against the rising wind. "Farther than the Pride Lands," Tariq replied, his voice low and serious. "Farther than memory, though." The wind suddenly changed direction, carrying a new scent on its current shit. It smelled of cold stone, old rain, and something ancient and unfamiliar. At that moment, messengers arrived, breathless, from the northern ridges. Their voices were urgent, filled with alarm. "There's movement beyond the high cliffs," one of them reported, panting. "It's not lions, not herds. It's something organized." Simba closed his eyes for a brief moment, taking in the news, processing the new reality. When he opened them, his posture was steady, his voice calm and resolute. "Then the circle expands," he declared. "We don't wait for threats to arrive at our borders anymore." Hearing this, Kivali finally stood up. His voice was quiet but clear, cutting through the tense silence. "I know paths that others don't," he said, looking directly at Simba. "Old crossings, hidden valleys. If something is coming, I can help you find it before it finds us." A heavy silence followed his offer. Every eye turned to Simba, who studied Kivali carefully, weighing the risk, the potential, the necessity. Then he gave a single, decisive nod. "Then you walk with us," he said. "Not ahead, not behind." "With us," Kivali lowered his head, not in submission, but in solemn acceptance. As the prides began their slow departure from the valley, they could feel the land shifting beneath their paws, not resisting them, not yielding to them, but responding. High above, the clouds began to move against the direction of the wind, a silent, impossible omen. And far beyond the horizon, beyond sight, something ancient stirred again. It wasn't angry. It was curious. Because the circle of life had changed, and the world had noticed. The age of isolation was over, and a new, uncertain era was dawning for the Pride Lands. What lay ahead was unknown, but they would face it together. Thanks for watching. We're as excited as we are to see where this journey leads. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter. See you soon! Nai arrived gently, as if the world itself did not wish to provoke what had just awakened. Stars emerged one by one, scattered across the sky like cautious witnesses. The prides made camp along the river's renewed banks, their reflections trembling in the water. Fireflies drifted above the reeds, soft lights against the dark small, fragile, and stubbornly alive. Simba stood apart, gazing toward the northern horizon where the land rose into shadowed cliffs. The feeling had not left him. It wasn't fear, it was awareness. Kiara approached quietly, sitting beside him. "You're listening again," she said. "I never stopped," Simba replied. "I just hoped I was wrong." She followed his gaze. "And now, I know something," heard us answer, "the deep echo," he said. "Something, old enough to remember when the circle was smaller." Across the camp, Kian lay awake, staring at the stars. The roar stirred faintly within him, not demanding release, but nudging, guiding. Images drifted through his thoughts, stone towers swallowed by jungle, rivers cutting through unfamiliar lands, eyes watching from places where no lion walked. Shay rose and joined Rafiki near the edge of the firelight. "The roar is..." "Pointing," Kion said carefully. "Not to a place, to a direction." Rafiki nodded, unsurprised too. Then the world is calling its guardians again." Kivali sat nearby, sharpening his focus on the darkness beyond the camp. His fire flickered low and controlled, casting steady light instead of wild flame, too. "I know that direction," he said. "Riolans, the northern cliffs lies the gray expanse. No rulers, no balance, only survival." "Why has it stayed silent until now?" Kiara asked. "Because nothing disturbed it," Kivali replied. "Until we sealed something that was never meant to be sealed without consequence." A distant sound rolled across the night. Not thunder. Footsteps. Deep. Rhythmic. Many thoughters. Of stone rose as one, their silhouettes massive against the stars. Tarek's voice was low and grave. "They are testing the borders. Not attacking. Measuring." Simba stepped forward, the firelight catching his eyes. "Then we answer clearly." He lifted his head and released a raw knot of challenge, not of dominance, but of presence. It carried across the plains, over cliffs and valleys, steady and unbroken. From far away, something answered. Not a roar, a horn, long, hollow, ancient. The pride stiffened. "That sound," Nala said softly. "It's not meant for battle." "No," Rafiki agreed. "It is a summons." The fire crackled as the wind shifted again, blowing sparks toward the north. Simba turned back to the gathered lions. At first light, "We move," he said. "Not as conquerors." Not as defenders. As what? Kiara asked. Simba looked at each of them. Kia, Kiara, Nala, Kivali, the Watchers, the United Prides. As witnesses, he said, to whatever the world has become while we were guarding only our own. Far beyond the river, beneath foreign stars, massive shapes stirred in the dark. The circle had chosen unity, and now it would be tested beyond everything it knew. Dawn did not break all at once. It crept in slowly, thin bands of silver light sliding between clouds, as if the sky itself was uncertain about what it would reveal. The camp stirred quietly. No one spoke. Even the cubs, normally a bundle of playful energy, sensed this was not an ordinary morning. The great river flowed steadily beside them, its surface placid and calm, hiding the deep wound that had nearly consumed it just days before. Yet, beneath that outward calm, the very land felt alert. Simba rose, burst a solitary figure against the pale dawn. He stood facing the north, the direction from which the mysterious horn call had come. He let the cool, crisp air fill his lungs. Each breath carried scents that were deeply unfamiliar, the sharp smell of stone, the dry scent of dust, and something else, something metallic and ancient. It was a smell that simply did not belong in the Pride Lands. One by one, the others gathered around him, their movements silent and purposeful. Kion joined his father, the power of the roar humming faintly within his chest, like a distant drumbeat felt more than heard. "It's clearer now," Kion said, his voice low but steady. "Whatever answered you last night, it's not moving closer."
Simba nodded, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "It's waiting," he replied. "Waiting to see if we will." Just then, Kiara stepped forward. Her posture was calm, exuding the quiet confidence of a future queen, but her eyes burned with an unshakable resolve.
"Then, we shouldn't make it wait," she declared, her voice ringing with certainty. The United Prides began their march at sunrise. It was a sight to behold, a vast, silent procession moving as one. They crossed the familiar plains in disciplined silence, passing landmarks that had once marked safety and home. The towering baobab trees, the watering holes where generations had gathered, they all felt like echoes from a world they were leaving behind. By midday, the lush grass began to thin. By afternoon, the vibrant colors of the savannas seemed to leach away, draining from the land entirely. The world became a stark canvas of grays and browns. The world became stone. Ahead, towering cliffs rose from the barren earth, fractured and uneven, like the skeletal remains of something shattered long ago. A relentless wind howled through the narrow, winding passes, carrying whispers that felt almost intentional, as if the land itself was trying to speak or to warn them away. Kivali, the ancient leader of the Watchers of Stone, slowed his pace, his eyes scanning the forbidding landscape. "This is the threshold," he announced, his deep voice barely audible above the wind. "Beyond this point, the circle of life does not guide the land." The Watchers of Stone, massive and powerful beings, halted as one, their bodies tense. Tarek, one of the wisest among them, pressed a heavy paw against the ground, his brow furrowed in concentration. "The earth here resists memory," he said, his voice a low rumble. "It does not want to be known." But Simba did not hesitate. He took a breath and stepped forward, crossing an unseen boundary between the world he knew and the one that lay beyond. The moment his paw touched the ground, the wind stopped. The howling ceased, and a complete, deafening silence fell over them. It was more unnerving than the wind had been. Then movement. From the deep, inky shadows of the cliffs, figures began to emerge. Ethereal lions, but unlike any lions the Pride had ever seen. They were tall, almost unnaturally so, and lean, their bodies scarred not by the glorious wounds of battle, but by the harsh marks of pure endurance. Their eyes were a pale, chilling color, reflecting no fear, no reverence, only a cold, sharp calculation. Strange markings were carved directly into their fur, ancient symbols that had been burned and healed over time, telling stories of a life Simba could not imagine. Delete. Figure stepped forward, his movements fluid and confident. His voice was low and steady, carrying an authority born of this desolate place. You walk far from your balance, king of the circle. Simba met the stranger's gaze without flinching, the weight of his own kingdom on his shoulders. And you guard a land without one? He countered. A corner of the stranger's lips twitched. It wasn't a smile, not quite, but a flicker of acknowledgement. We guard survival, he said simply. That is a luxury we cannot afford. Kion felt the roar of the elders surge within him, a familiar rush of immense power. But then, it faltered. It hesitated. It did not recognize this place. It was like a powerful key that no longer fit the lock. Beside him, Rafiki's staff began to hum softly, its familiar magic reacting to the strange energy of the land. "Ay," the old mandrill murmured, his eyes wide with understanding. "This land chose strength over harmony. And it has paid its price." The stranger's pale eyes shifted, focusing intently on Kion. "That power inside you," he said, his voice laced with caution. "It would tear this land apart." Kion stood his ground, his own voice firm and unwavering. "I won't let it," he replied. The stranger tilted his head, a gesture of cold curiosity. "We will see." As if on cue, a deep, powerful tremor rolled through the stone beneath their paws. From somewhere beyond the jagged cliffs, a massive shadow began to rise, its movements slow, deliberate, and impossibly heavy. Each step sent vibrations shuddering through the ground, and dust rained down from the rock walls around them. Kiara's voice was a mere whisper, filled with awe and dread. "That's what answered the horn." The stranger's voice dropped, becoming even more serious. "No," he corrected her gravely. "That is what the horn warns us about." A colossal shape emerged from the gloom. Neprides drew in a collective breath of disbelief. It was neither beast nor spirit, but something else entirely. Something forged by centuries of unchecked, brutal survival. Its limbs were plated in what looked like living stone. Its eyes glowed with a faint, eerie light from within a cracked armor-like skin. It did not roar. It did not make a sound. It just watched them, its presence crushing the air around it. The very ground itself seemed to recoil from its immense weight. Shk. In that moment, Simba felt the weight of every decision he had ever made, every burden he had ever carried, pressed down on him once more. But this time, he did not stand alone. Behind him, the prides tightened their formation, a sea of courage and loyalty. Kion stepped forward, his resolve now as solid as the stone beneath him. Kion moved to align herself beside her father, unflinching and ready. Across from them, Kivili's inner fire ignited not a wild, destructive inferno, but a controlled, focused flame, ready for what was to come. Lifting his head high, Simba addressed the colossal being, his voice calm and clear, echoing against the silent cliffs. "We didn't come to dominate," he said. "We came to listen." The massive being shifted, a sound-like countenance grinding against each other. Then, impossibly, it spoke. Its voice was the sound of the earth itself, ancient and powerful, echoing through the canyons. "Then listen well," it said, "because what broke this land is coming for yours next." In a sudden, violent rush, the wind returned, whipping around them with renewed fury. And in that desolate, forgotten corner of the world, the true trial of the circle of life began. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you're as invested in this story as we are, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss what happens next. See you in the next chapter.